Hello and welcome to Robin Minds. My name is Hero Daniels. Many thanks for joining us. It's election fever over here already as Nigeria moves closer to the 2027 general elections. This conversation will examine INEC's preparedness 1 year to the polls. Okay, so we're going to be talking about and assessing lessons from the 2023 elections, public trust in the electoral process, and whether INEC is institutionally and operationally ready to deliver credible elections in 2027. Now, I am going to give you a bit of statistics, and according to the research conducted, the registered voters over time in 2015 was 68.8 million registered voters. Now, in 2019, we took it a step higher with 84.0 million registered voters. And then later on in 2023, we had a record number of 93.47 million registered voters. However, there has been a decline in terms of the people that actually come out to vote. In 2015, out of that 68 million, we just had moderate turnout, almost half the votes. You know, we're talking about 43%. In 2019, it went down to 34.75%. And then in 2023, which we had the highest number of registered voters, there was a turnout of 27.1%, which is literally the lowest turnout since the return of democracy. And the big question now is, why are we having this declining pattern? To discuss this, joining me virtually is the resident electoral commissioner, INEC, Akwa Ibom, Barrister Obo Efaha. Welcome to the program, sir.
Very much, Hero.
Okay, so I'm going to dive straight into it. Why do you think we've had a decline in terms of the number of Nigerians that are willing to come out to vote based on the last election?
Okay, thank you very much. I think we need to interrogate the figures. You mentioned the figures of registered voters in the 2015 election and also indicated that subsequent elections, the number of registered voters increased. But what you did not take into account of was the method of accreditation of voters. The method of accreditation of voters in the recent elections have been more authentic than what we had in the past. And so when we say, for instance, that let's say a polling unit of 300 registered voters, when we say that 120 persons voted, it means that actual number of people who were properly accredited and voted is 120. In the past, the technology we used for the accreditation was such that it was not a top-notch. If you recall, in 2015 general election, the politicians pushed back on the use of the smart card reader for accreditation, such that on election day, during the presidential election, INEC said where the smart card reader would not work effectively, they could resort to manual accreditation. And we all know that with manual accreditation, it's easy to manipulate the figures. So for instance, in 2015, we had the total number of accredited voters across the country. You found out that in the presidential election, you found out that in 13 of the states, more than 1 million registered voters were recorded as having been accredited and voted in that election. But fast forward 8 years afterwards, in 2023, with the use of the bimodal voter accreditation system BIVAS, which is more accurate, the number of those millions dropped in such that only one state had up to 1 million accredited voters. So we also need to look at the technology to be really sure that the figures, the percentage we are looking at, is appropriate.
All right, so Barrister Obo, I actually take into cognizance of the fact that you did say that now we have the BIVAS, we have the technology, there's the Irev platform, and of course it is work in progress. Now, you did accredit the decline in the voter turnout to the technology. However, I also want us to see how we can also factor in, things like, voter apathy. There were certain regions in 2023 where, there were voter suppression and, issues like that. And also, we also know that even with the technology we're talking about, till now, we still don't know what has caused the technical glitch. The INEC has not come out to say this is exactly what the reasons are. But I'm not going to bore you with that. What I'm going to now ask you is, with the technology that we have, how can we be rest assured that the mistakes of 2023, and by mistakes I'm referring specifically to things like the technical glitches and all of the things reported as a result of the technology that we now use. In moving to 2027, what extra preparation is INEC making?
Okay, so thanks. We must also take note of the fact that after the 2023 general election, with the glitch that you made reference to, INEC has conducted many other off-cycle elections, and we did not experience what we experienced in 2023. So we've improved on this system, and we can only look forward to more improvement as we proceed. And so I am sure that going forward, we are going to notice these improvements. If people actually sit back and look at the processes after the 2023 general elections, you will actually notice that there's been an improvement in the quality of technology, in the use of technology, and the outcome of it in the subsequent elections.
Okay, what is the update with regards the electoral reform that is currently sitting the bill that is in the House of Assembly? What timeline? Because 2027 is just around the corner, and I think there's only just a bit of, I think, about 1 month window for it to actually be sent to the president and approved. Like, what is the progress on that? Because I believe that a lot of these issues that we faced in 2023 was addressed in the bill. Where are we with the bill currently?
Well, the bill is with the National Assembly, and so that question would probably be addressed to the National Assembly. We are an implementing agency, and whatever law exists, that is what we would implement. If you recall, in 2023, we also had a similar situation. We had an existing electoral act that was amended that we had to rely on until the 2022 Electoral Act was passed. And at the time it was passed, it was quite close to the time INEC was supposed to issue the guidelines, make the proclamation about the dates of the election. And so INEC had to now look at what the new law said and now act based on that. It was one of the reasons that the original date that we could have had the presidential election in 2023 was shifted by, I think, a week. So whenever if a new electoral act comes into being, then INEC would be bound to implement that. But if it doesn't come into being, then it means that we have an existing electoral act that we have to work with.
All right. There has been a very huge trust deficit, with not just the commission, but also with the current dispensation. Now, what is INEC doing in terms of voter education, and how do you think INEC is trying to win back the trust of the people? Because a lot of people still do not believe in the credibility of the body and the credibility of the elections.
Okay. All we can do is to do what we are supposed to do and do it well and improve on whatever we've done in the past. And like I said, that's what we've been doing since after the 2023 general election. We've had several other elections after then. The last of the elections we had was the one in Anambra State, the governorship election in Anambra State. So you may want to find out from those who participated in the election in Anambra State what their rating of the conduct of that election might be. Now, right now, we are actually doing the continuous voter registration, and there's been a lot of notification and information passed to the public about that. So we are engaging our publics in our various locations. We are also engaging with the media in some of these things, and there are also civil society groups that are also involved in this. But importantly, we like to stress that we expect the political parties to also up their game in terms of how they conduct themselves internally and also how they engage with the electorate in letting them know the processes that are going on so that they can participate in it. Because at the end of it all, the beneficiaries, the number one beneficiaries of the process are the the political parties. So they also have a role to play in engaging in voter education. INEC is doing so much already in that regard. We also expect the political parties to be doing same. Like I said, we started the continuous voter registration for this season in August last year. So between August and December, we had the first phase of the continuous voter registration. And then in January, we started another phase. We were doing this at the state offices and the local government offices of INEC across the country. But starting from tomorrow, we are going to the wards level, to the ward level for the registration to be done. So we are calling on members of the public. And I must say, in Akwa Ibom State, where I sit, we have seen a large number of people who have registered so far, and more are still waiting to register. They are registering because they want to participate in the election.
Okay. Barrister Obo, I do not mean to take you back, but this is a very important conversation. I know that you have clearly stated that we've improved in terms of the technology, but I really want to go back to the BIVAS. There is really a public distrust. And I think one of the things that are also fueling the public distrust now, I missed all of the campaign that is going on in terms of the continuous voters registration, which I personally think that INEC needs to do better in collaboration with the media and the civil society, because a lot of people still do not know. That I can tell you, especially the younger demography. But back to the conversation of the trust deficit and the conversation of the BIVAS. When you hear certain people also come onto the media, there was a certain viral video of an APC chieftain saying that, the election is a done deal, their candidate is going to win, people are hungry and they'll just give them 20,000 naira to vote. And even if they refuse the 20,000 naira, INEC is going to have a glitch, right? And this is an APC chieftain. No, so when you see conversations like this and there was no public press by the INEC saying that, please, Nigerians, we're assuring you that, this election is going to be fair, it's going to be credible, we're working on it. So, yes, please, can we really go back to what exactly, particularly, we're doing with the BIVAS? I know that you've already made reference to the elections that happened in Anambra State, but that is a difference. I understand that it's a benchmark, but again, presidential elections come with a lot of tension and come with a lot of pressure, so how are we sure that we're not going to have issues with the BIVAS moving into 2027?
Okay, so I'm going to explain in details what BIVAS is and what it does. But first of all, let me address the issue you said somebody bragged about how they were going to win election. I'm sure we've heard a lot of this kind of rhetoric from politicians at different times. We have been in this country long enough to know that politicians like to make those kind of rhetorics. And we've seen incumbent parties make those kind of rhetorics in the past and lost the election. So I don't think we should waste our time so much on that. Now for the BIVAS. BIVAS simply means Bimodal Voter Accreditation System device. What does the BIVAS do? BIVAS at the beginning of the election, on election day, is used for the accreditation of voters. A BIVAS is configured to a polling unit. So when you go to your polling unit on election day, on the BIVAS that is configured for that polling unit, the register of voters in that polling unit is already imputed in that BIVAS. When you now go and you say that you're Mr. ABC and your name is on the voters register and you show your voters card and we see that the voters card is actually for Mr. ABC, we want to be sure that you are actually the owner of that identity. So with the BIVAS, we use two methods of accrediting, either your fingerprint or your facials. At least one of them must match what we have in the system. If it does not match, we will know definitely that you are not the owner of that identity and you will not be allowed to vote because you would not be accredited. But if it is yours, then it will allow you to be voted. And the BIVAS takes note of how many people have been accredited in that polling unit. Okay? So each person who is accredited is given a ballot paper to vote. The person votes, drops the ballot paper in the ballot box. At the end of voting, all the ballot papers are brought out, sorted out and counted, and the results is entered in the result sheet for that polling unit, the polling unit result sheet that comes in multiple copies. And then After this is done, copies of the results are given to agents of the parties present there. And we now use the same BIVAS and take a snapshot of the results of that polling unit as written in the result sheet. That is the photograph that is uploaded onto the Irev. Irev means INEC Results Viewing Portal. That is what is uploaded onto the Irev so that people anywhere who have access to the internet can see the photograph result of that polling unit and every polling unit.
Sorry to butt in, but there was a research conducted by the YAGA. YAGA is Youth Initiative for Advocacy, Growth and Advancement. I don't know if you've come across that report. And in terms of the BIVAS and the results processes, the BIVAS accreditation used and recorded was recorded in 93% of polling units, which means 7% was missing. The results and the photo scans taken was recorded in 83% of the polling units, while the attempted direct transmission via the Irev platform only recorded 59% of the polling units, which means there's a deficit of about, give or take, 69% rather, which leaves us with a deficit of about 31%. Now, this is a report by an independent body. I don't know if INEC has their own reports in terms of the success rates and implementation of what
I know much about YAGA Africa and the work they do, which is commendable. I don't know which of the elections this
2023 was on. 2023.
2023. Okay, good. But I also need to explain this. I was explaining the process. For now, our election is still manual. That is something everybody needs to recognize. Remember, I just explained how people, after being accredited, they are given ballot papers to physically vote and drop, and it is counted. The result is entered in the result sheet. A photograph of that is what is uploaded to the Irev. What is now used for the collation is the actual physical result from the polling unit. So from the polling unit, the presiding officer goes to the registration area, also known as ward, the collation center for that registration area. He goes there with the BIVAS from the polling unit and then the result sheet for that polling unit and meets the ward collation officer who receives all the physical result sheets from all the polling units in that ward and then collates in the presence of agents of all the political
parties. Okay, we've got that. Yes. We're almost running out of time, and this question is really important. I understand that earlier on in your opening speech, you did mention that because of technology, there is a decline in voters' turnout. But I can assure you, sir, with what
I didn't say decline in voters' turnout. I talked about percentage of voters with what is the registered voters, yes.
Okay, potato. However, there is really, people are scared to come out. I know a lot of people that didn't vote in the last election, even though they registered. Some people just want to register for documentation purposes. It's part of the documents I have as a Nigerian. I have my voter's card. A lot of people are scared of going out because they're not assured of their safety. We've seen election violence here and there. Sometimes even when you go to certain polling units, and yeah. So please, what exactly is INEC doing in terms of the security architecture for this election?
Okay, thank you very much for raising this issue. I need to stress the point that the success of the election, the turnout and all that will depend not only on the conduct of INEC, but the conduct of multiple stakeholders. It will also depend on the conduct of political parties. It will depend on the conduct of the voters themselves. It will also depend on the conduct of the security agencies. Remember that INEC is not a security agency. We conduct the election. We are at the fulcrum of organizing the election, but there are so many other stakeholders that are involved with us in ensuring that the election is credible and there is safety and security during the election. We engage with the security agencies, but we cannot do their work for them. You would also expect that the security agencies should be on top of their games in terms of investigation, in terms of ensuring that the safety of everyone during the election. When there is breakdown of safety and security in election situation, is not everybody suffers, including INEC officials.
Right.
Okay, the voters suffer, even the media also suffers. So
Yeah.
every agency will have to do its own role, carry out its own role. But the question also is, who are the people who mobilize the people who carry out the violence?
All
It's
right.
the political parties. So
Yeah,
we
we're
need
out
to
of time
call them
now.
out.
We're out of time now, but thank you so much, Barrister Obo, for coming. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.